Okay. Better? Can
Now
you
I
say,
don't hear
hey,
you at all.
you
There
don't
you
hear
are.
me?
Yes.
Okay. Gabo. Hi, Gabe. Manga. What's going on, Manga? All right, so we have a couple minutes, but those of you that are here, I have this chandelier behind me. It's kind of funny. Those of you that are here, I know, hey, Manga, go ahead and say your name. And I mean, obviously we see your name, but let us know where you guys are tuning in from. Like what city, what state. Brazil. Cool. How's Brazil? Reb is in New York right now, and I'm in Redondo Beach, Hermosa Beach, Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Ah, Illinois, nice. Yes, nice and warm. That's nice, Manga. All right. So we'll wait for a few more people to get here, but thank you guys for joining us. We've done a few tests on my personal page that I deleted, but those would have been funny live videos to keep up if I did. We couldn't
Yeah,
figure out the
very.
technology world for a little while.
Of Facebook. High-tech
Yeah,
Facebook.
exactly. Manga, what's the temperature in Brazil right now? It rained here this morning, everyone. Rained in Los
I think
Angeles.
it's raining right now.
Is it?
I think so.
How's New York, Reb? Reb flew back
New York,
yesterday, everybody. I miss her already.
New York is good. I'm just organizing all my stuff. So much stuff.
It snowed last night. Oh man. That's what my mom said. It's East Coast is getting some weather yet again in the middle of April. April showers, April snow. Same thing.
Yep.
All right, we'll wait 1 or 2 more minutes and then we'll start. I know people trickle
What's
on
our,
slowly. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, what's our topic today?
We are answering questions, parent live question and answer. So on our Facebook group, Parents Rise Athlete Community, we ask them questions and prompts according to what they want to chat about and what questions they have on how they can best support their athlete. So we are here now to answer all of those questions, and a lot of topics today stem around training and how often to train and what is a good age to specialize. And then we're going to give you guys some time as well to answer some questions or ask some questions on here at the end, but we're going to address some questions first that we've gotten on the Facebook group. So Reb and I will both be doing that. And then we have a fun surprise at the end for the next question and answer live Q&A. So we'll tune in for that. Let me see if this is. All right. Does it sound like, can you guys hear me? Does anybody mind typing if they can hear me or not? I'm just making sure that it's not breaking out. And then we'll get started. Okay, all good? Okay, good. Can everyone hear Rev? Do you want to?
Yeah, can you hear me okay? I'm not sure if I'm breaking up or I'm
The
just not.
snow is covering the telephone poles, the Wi-Fi. Oh, good. We
Do
got
you
some
hear?
thumbs up.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Well, I think let's start. It's only a couple minutes after, but people can trickle in and we'll just introduce a little bit at the beginning. Thank you guys for joining. And hi, Jamie. Jamie, where are you tuning in from today? Everyone that is here, if you don't mind just saying where you guys are tuning in from. And oh, nice. Thanks, Robert. Sweet. All right. So I'm Caroline. I'm one of the co-founders. The other one is on the screen as well of Rise. And we have a parent community that we want to just take so much pride in, that we love taking pride in. That is, that we're providing for any parent athletes. So that's what I like to call them. It's funny, student athlete in college and parent athlete, parents of athletes all over the world and all over the globe are welcome to join our community because we want to support you. And it's, there's challenges, there's triumphs of having a youth athlete, and we would like to celebrate as well as answer lots of questions and provide insights for you guys. So this is our second one. We've done one last month, and we're going to do these each month. So it'll be a good place to all collaborate and communicate. So yeah. And Reb, you want to?
Yeah, awesome. I'm Rebecca. I'm coming in from New York, so it's kind of cool. We are dividing and conquering the country today. But yeah, we're excited to answer some questions. I actually haven't seen any of the questions yet that came in through our parent page, but pretty awesome that people are sending the questions in. So I'm excited to hear what some of them are and to chat through some of them. So I'm really excited.
All right. So I'll start off. One of the questions that we received recently from a parent was asking, she is a swimmer, and it was, do you think swimming 7 days a week is too much? And she was saying, I get mixed responses from coaches saying it's fine. One should swim only 6, some 7. But then, the question of burnout is on the table. So it's something along the lines of like, how many days is too much? And swimming is an endurance sport, and an endurance sport can be tricky because you have to really gauge what is too much endurance. And then also when you're incorporating strength work in as well, it can be tricky to balance both. So one of the things that for me personally, growing up, I was a little bit of a late bloomer, and I swam 6 days a week, but I only did single workouts. I didn't do doubles until I think my end of my junior year of high school. That was me personally. It's different for everybody. But swimming specifically, I think that as long as you're taking proper recovery and listening to your body, then that's key. And so it's that conversation that you can have with the athlete about how they feel, what is going on in workouts, and with the coach, like what the coach is giving them workout wise, and the structure of that as well helps to maintain that. I think it's different too as the season changes. So at the beginning of the season, when you're training a little bit more than towards taper time, sometimes you take a little bit more rest as you taper. So I think that it's all individual. So 7 days a week, I think you should have 1 day off. That's just my personal opinion. I think 1 day off every week is very, very key to rest, recover, rejuvenate the body, because the body's adrenal system has to repair and recover for the next cycle of workouts. So I'm a big proponent of 1 day off a week, but I do think it's individual to the athlete and accordance of their communication with the coach. Reb, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's awesome. So just as a note, I'm like cutting in and out. I think my internet is not great right now, but from what I did hear of that, that sounded awesome. And I think I will just repeat on what you just finished off with, which is how important rest is. I think as athletes, we like to push, and we think the harder we can go, the more practice that we can do, the better. But as I've matured in my athletic career, I started to learn that it's in the rest that growth is actually is happening. And so if we're not allowing the body to rest, we're kind of holding back from some growth. So yes, I agree with Caroline that I'm a big supporter of rest as well. Obviously, you don't want to just be resting all the time, but 7 days a week. I never swam 7 days a week in my training, and always had a full day off. So yeah, just speaking from experience, that's that's definitely what I believe in.
Yeah, that's a big, I know the word and the phrase burnout gets thrown around a little bit within sports and within youth sports in general. And I think that it's a topic that's worth a discussion, and it's worth something to think about, because it's not just physical burnout, it's mental burnout, and I think that if the athlete is having trouble with balancing school and life and family and friends and everything, I think the burnout, like the mental, physical burnout, the combo of the two is probably more, it's worth thinking about than just the physical burnout. So is the athlete happy mentally? Are they having fun with their peers, with what they're doing? Are they enjoying themselves? Or is it becoming a chore? Is it becoming a burden? I think those are signs to look for too, as far as burnout goes, because mental burnout can then cause physical burnout as well. Mm-hmm. So, and vice versa. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the next questions we got was along a similar line, but it was involving having a personal trainer. And if like doing dry land is enough, if you're doing dry land, that's a swimming term, but if you're doing cross training in your sport, is that enough? Like, do you need an extra training session with a personal trainer? Do you need to do strength work? My personal thought again on this is assessing the level of physical capability and maturation that athlete is at. I think that that's a big thing, different in endurance sports versus a game sport, like soccer, tennis, like match game style sports are going to be different for what you need strength wise than an endurance sport. So I think it's assessing how much training is actually being done, and then also how mature physically and emotionally is that athlete, to where if they want to add on something else, is it to supplement it? Is it to take the place of something? Is it because it's fun? Is it because it's mandatory? Like, what's the why behind why you're doing that? What's the why? And so I think if it's an endurance sport, which this question was about swimming, I think that it's important to think about how much dry land is being done, how much stuff is being done outside of the pool. And is this something that's going to help, or is it just because it's a thought to like, you need this, right, to be better? Or, like, why? There.
Yeah. I just heard up until the very end again. So that I totally agree with that too. And my question comes into, is this something completely separate from what you're doing, in the sense that your personal trainer might not know what you did in practice today, and vice versa? I believe there should be some communication between all these things that are going on, so that it just, flows together. You make sure that the training that you do in the pool, if you are seeing a personal trainer, rather than both of them being just separate and not communicating with each other, and the training, kind of like you're doing two separate things. So again, this goes back to this idea of, is more really better? And if you're just trying to add more, then brings of maybe it might be time to substitute some stuff, or simply trying to maximize, if you're already doing that dry land, maximizing the most out of that, instead of adding something new just to add something new. So
that's a good point. Do
Caroline,
any of the parents on the
by the way?
live? It's definitely glitching, but you can pick up on most of it. It's glitching, but it like will catch up. So you're good. But I will ask the
Okay, I think it
parents
just
now, like,
refreshed.
do any parents have, oh, good. Sweet. See, this is you got to roll with the punches, right? Like tech world, this is life. You got to just roll with it. But do any of the parents have any questions on that topic? So I'll give you guys a couple minutes because it's delayed, but if you have any questions or comments on training and what you feel your athletes currently do, and maybe some questions you have around like how much training is too much, how much is helpful, extra training outside of what they're doing, I'll give you guys a second to ask any of those questions. And I'm going to chime in here on my personal experience and some experience of some other Olympians that I've spoken with. So I did not lift any weights until college, and that was just my personal choice. But my team did lift weights, and it was all dumbbell oriented. I was a swimmer, obviously, and we did a lot of dry land work. So medicine balls, like bands, cords, ropes, abs, all sorts of body work stuff. But that was more to engage our bodies on land so then we can then put it in the water, right? So I had a lot of friends that also were tennis players or cross country runners, things of that nature, and they would do other things to supplement what they were doing, obviously not overboard, but they would communicate consistently with their coach about what was happening if they were going to do anything extra. So I think it's just, it's dependent on your sport and it's dependent on where you're at. And again, going back to that communication piece of like, what is it that you feel, is happening with your athlete? Do they want like spicy? Do they want to spice it up? Do they just want, to have fun, supplement it with something else or anything like that? So that was my personal experience with it. Again, I was a slow, late bloomer and I liked to take my time. And I think that it actually benefited me in the long run in college, because then when I started to do more work on land, it helped me more because my body responded to it better as I got more mature and older.
Yeah, I kind of had a similar situation where I added more as I got older. So I'm not that familiar and not, oh, I'm glad that it's better, Caroline. I can see it. I just got off the Wi-Fi. Wasn't working. But yeah, I was the same way. And I was a big advocate of dry land, which for us was mostly core work, ab work, medicine balls, not so much weights for me, but I absolutely loved dry land. That's where I found a lot of the strength that I needed, core strength that I needed for swimming. So I just stuck with that all through high school. And once in college, I was kind of put into the college weight program with the rest of the team. I didn't like it. It didn't seem to, my body just didn't do well. And it's never really done too well with weights. So similar, Caroline said earlier, each person is really different, and it's good to both listen to your body and I don't think it's necessarily advantageous to start doing weights or start, doing everything really early in your swimming career. Granted, everyone has a different path. So it's almost, what makes you feel good and also enjoy what you're doing, because that's a really big part of what we do is, how well we do comes from how much we're enjoying it.
Yeah. Oh, we just got a message. Oh, Jamie, no worries. These will stay up on the page, by the way, so you're good. No worries. Yeah, so Reb said it best. Everyone's different. Everybody. I mean, sprinters in general, if you think about track and field, you have runners that run 40s and then people that run miles, right? Like they're going to train differently. And I think that the hardest thing for youth athletes is comparison of what they're doing to others. And it's, I personally swam the 200 freestyle and 400 freestyle. And I remember some of my peers would train entirely different than I did, entirely different. And you just have to trust your process of that training and have good communication with your coach according to what your body needs, because every body physically reacts differently, recovers quicker, slower, the same as others, whatever it may be. So I think that's a key thing to think about, because raising an athlete, I remember my parents had two of us that swam, and polar opposite. My brother could recover very quickly. He was a power athlete, strength power, and I recovered slow as molasses and was a, longer, more fluid finesse type swimmer than like strength and power. And so I think it's just different from their perspectives too, which was interesting to talk to them about that. And that's just swimming. Like I said, every sport's different. So that's a good topic. That's a topic we could talk about the whole time, but I'm glad we got a couple questions on that through the group. Yeah. And that's a valid one. We can definitely talk about that all day.
Yeah. I mean, moral of the story, everybody is different. We all want this easy answer of what to do. And a lot of people ask us as Olympians, like, what should I be doing? At what age should I, I think our next question also talks about, a request of at what age should we do something. But it's so important to follow your own path, and to know that, anything that we say might not work for you. And, Caroline and I are different. Caroline and her brother were both Olympians, and they, like she said, were so incredibly different with their training and recovery and the process that they went through. So it's really cool to see, but I know it's not the easy answer, but in reality, it's the truth. It takes a lot of self-reflection and asking yourself, what do I think I need? And what do I, where am I now? How can I both accept that and do the best that I can for where I am? Yeah. So let's jump into the next question. Yeah. Somewhat similar, I believe, but the next question is, when is the average/ideal age for specializing? So within swimming, this would be specializing in a certain stroke or picking an event and focusing on it. As a swimmer, as a breaststroke was my specialty, but kind of by default, because I could not do much of anything else. I mean, I was fine at it, but
she was good. Don't
yeah, but I couldn't even make the intervals in freestyle, comparatively to what I could do at breaststroke. So my 200 IM is still slower than my 200 breaststroke, which doesn't make any sense, because there's other, breaststroke is supposed to be the slowest, but those of you that aren't swimmers. And so when we talk about specializing, we talk about, let's not focus on all the strokes, but just train my one stroke. And my answer to this is certainly not before college. I don't think. I'm very supportive of a well-rounded foundation, which is pretty much your high school and earlier career. Meaning I do believe that you gotta kind of train everything in a swimming capacity. I'm not really sure how this relates with other sports, other than say track, which is very similar. But yeah, I really do believe that, even as a breaststroker later in my career, my professional career, once I was like training for the Olympics and doing that as my job, even then, I raced pretty much only a breaststroke, but I trained everything. And that not only helped my breaststroke get better, but it also saved, overuse of muscles, and breaststroke being pretty hard on your knees. It kind of saved my knees somewhat and just switched it up. I think I would have gone crazy if I just trained, focused only on breaststroke all the time. Instead, I tried to take what I could from my other strokes to make my breaststroke stronger, even when I wasn't swimming breaststroke or doing those drills. And I was in the distance group. I was in the distance freestyle group most days. We could choose what group we wanted every day. I would be in distance freestyle, and I'd either be substituting in all 4 strokes, so IM work, or substituting in breaststroke work sometimes just swimming distance free. So that's kind of strange for 100, 200 breaststroker, but point being that we don't have to focus exclusively on one thing to improve that one thing.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And I also think it's the definition of like, what is specializing, right? Like what is specializing? So maybe it's just narrowing down the area that you're working in, right? So gymnastics, they're, usually gymnasts are younger, right? Like they're younger. And I know we have someone that we work with, and she's an Olympic gymnast, Bridget Sloan, and she, was super young when she specialized. However, maybe that specialization is just honing in on what you're better at a young age. And then when you get to college, you specialize again, and then you specialize again. I think there's different timelines of specialization. I think you specialize mentally as well, like knowing what it is that you want to do and starting to focus in on a certain area, and then being able to take it to the next specialization and say, okay, now I've got these 4 events, these 3 skills, these whatever. How do I make those even more streamlined? And how do I continue to refine what I'm doing? And so I think if you think of it in that way, it can take some pressure off of feeling like it has to be a certain timeline of specialization at a certain age, or like, a doctrine, like set timeline of I've got to do it at 12, 13, 14, 15. That's going to be relative for sure. I think it's all emotional maturation too, and development as well into what you want to do as an athlete. And so just having those conversations with your athletes, I think, is really key as well. Like what they like, what they feel they're good at, what they want to specialize in versus what they feel like they have to. Because I know Reb could vouch for this too. There's athletes that are good at 5 things, and so it's a matter of what is it that they want. And if they're 12 and they know, and they're convicted, I want to do baseball, or like, that is what I want to do. I don't want to do 5 sports. I don't want to do this. I want to be a baseball pitcher. Boom. Then if they want that, then there's no reason to fight that if that's where their passion is at. And so I think that that's also a key thing in specialization, is their want of that.
Absolutely. I mean, we get a lot of questions from high school athletes that, maybe I'm not the best baseball player, but I play baseball and football. Should I quit football to get better at baseball? And it's like, well, you have to look at what your objective really is here. We do understand, and, we're not just only serving future Olympians. This is not a super exclusive elite. It's about getting the most out of sports and making it a positive learning experience for the rest of your life. And so if your honest goals are just to enjoy high school sports, and you can do that in both of your sports, and you realize that, maybe I'll play in college, but I probably won't be a pro baseball player for the rest of my life, then, I think it's totally fine to do several sports and to enjoy the process of that, rather than get super serious and say, I need to, focus exclusively on one thing, even though I don't want to, just because it seems like the right thing to do. So, taking a look at your bigger objectives and your why of what you're doing can also be useful as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And jumping, we have a question from one of the parent. What are the things that you can do on land that will help sprinting in the water? And that's a swimming specific question. Before we move on to the next topic, I think that's really key to address. It's very important to do things on land properly and correctly as well, because a lot of swimmers tend to have injuries on land because we're made to be in the water. And that, again, that's, everyone's different, but I think that to specialize with sprinting, it's going to be more power stuff and more explosive stuff that you can maybe use your body with. So I know a lot of sprinters will do jumps and plyometrics and explosive work with just quick reaction drills, things like that. I think those are key, just as long as they have someone supervising them at a younger age so that they can do everything properly and make sure that that translates into land. But yeah, a lot of plyometrics, jumping, box jumping, reaction drills, those things help with sprinting for sure.
Building that fast twitch muscle.
Yeah.
Even some fun stuff that you can do at home. I've seen, well, you're asking two not sprinters here. So I've seen other people do this, but you can take like one of the coolest things, it was this little ball, bouncy ball, but it was like funky shaped. So when you bounced it, it would go in a random direction. And if you bounce that against a wall, you have to like quickly react to where it's gonna go. So something like, you know, even making it fun, things like that at home, that just building that fast reaction kind of muscle. I certainly never needed that. Maybe it would have helped get off the blocks faster. I don't know. But anything that builds fast twitch is really good for the sprinters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what just, I like jealous. Sometimes I'd watch the sprinters do their dry land and it looks so fun.
Ooh, how about turns? Tara asks. Turns are a good one.
Yeah.
Turns, I think, are underutilized
Yeah.
in swimming. And yes, so if the question is how to improve on those, one of my favorite drills that helped with that was just about like getting the turnover nice and quickly, because we like to unconsciously rest on the wall and we'll, you know, take that long big breath if you're doing that open turn for breaststroke. But one of my favorite drills was just not even on the wall. You just practice doing, I called phantom turns. So you just are swimming in the middle of the lane and then you flip and try to flip over as soon as possible. And same thing for the open turns, except obviously you're turning backwards instead of flipping forwards. And then just start swimming again in the opposite direction. And this teaches you to not rely on those turns as a slow, like taking a breather kind of thing. But again, I think the same fast twitch kind of work, also jumping work that Caroline mentioned, doing supervised and doing it properly on land, can be very, very helpful for improving on turns.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all about the turns, unless it's a 50-meter freestyle. Then there's no turn. But the start, same thing.
Yeah.
Explosive work.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. And I think that at least in my career, I could have worked on it a lot more. I could have given a lot more time to working on turns, on starts, and I just kind of relied on the swimming, the swimming part.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting now to find most sports have different translative activities that translate to their sport. So even land sports will do water work. I know that when I attended University of Florida, the volleyball girls would do tons of water running and tons of water conditioning. And it's interesting how both of those work, right? So like if you do have, I know a lot of parents that I have athletes that are in summer sports that are, you know, tennis or whatever, and they say swimming has helped them so much just because the conditioning is so wonderful, and the water displacement and being in a non-impact environment helps their land sport. So I think that that's a really cool thing to explore too, if you have land athletes that want to work on some alternative ways to train. So that's kind of cool.
It's fun to see them in the water as well.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Switching topics entirely, well, not really entirely, but we had a question on nerves and how do you tame nerves and help use them in performance. Million bajillion dollar question. And this is something that, I mean, nerves and having nerves in a sport is a really good thing. It's a good thing. It means that you're alive. It means that you're excited. It means that you are nervous. It means that you actually have emotion surrounding your sport. Now, whether that emotion is productive or counterproductive is up to the athlete and up to how they're starting to really work with their brain and what they're focusing on. So, you know, nerves in sport are inevitable. You're going to have them. You're going to have good nerves. You're going to have bad nerves. And it all stems around your self-talk and what you're telling yourself is going on before that. And so I think that when you have those bad nerves, I sometimes call them gremlins, because you just like picture this like you know, the angel and the devil on the shoulder, and like one's just like, you can't do it, or you know, blah blah blah. And it's a super common, I mean, that's everybody. Honestly, at some point you have that feeling of like, I'm not gonna be doing this, like I can't do this right, this is scary, I don't know how to do this, I'm not cut out for this, I'm not gonna all the what ifs, or I'm not, or I don't really know how. So I think one way to tame them is always come back to your breath. We do, like with Rise, specifically our Rise program that we have, we do a lot of work with our athletes on breathing and mindfulness of their body and connecting their mind and body. And so the one thing you can always count on is your breath. And so going back to your breath and working on focusing on that, because that's the one thing you can count on, helps a lot of athletes just calm themselves and calm their nerves so that they can then think clearly. I think a lot of times your breath gets rushed, and then that in turn causes a physical reaction in your body that makes you even more nervous than you really were. So that's something that you can do physically that also helps mentally. And that takes practice, because it's like, okay, well, breathing, but we're always breathing. So that's why you see a lot of athletes take really deep breaths before they compete. So most sports, and I know Reb can vouch for that, I don't think you see someone standing there right before they're going to compete, and if they are, then there's probably a chance that they're letting those bad nerves get to them and not really focusing on their breath. So you see a lot of deep breaths to calm their nervous system down. So that's a way that helping performance, the nerves and everything like that. I know I personally yawned before I swam, so that was a way to calm my nerves. It was a way to get some deep breaths.
Yeah, yawning is just your brain's getting ready to your brain's getting ready to go and asking for more oxygen. So, our breath we take advantage of it, and we like to teach it with our athletes that we work with because it's so powerful. We're still learning about it. If you've ever taken a breath class, oh my gosh, you have to try it. Highly recommended. Any breath class, just the power that comes, it's unreal. But in addition to what Caroline said, I will add just a few things about nerves. And it is such a big topic, but there's so many ways that we can learn to understand it better and things that we can do to optimize it. But my personal favorites, first and foremost, is accepting that you're going to be nervous. If you're going in to swim, at the Olympics or even JOs or going into your high school game, whatever, you're going to be nervous. You've been training for this and all that. So accepting that you're going to be nervous is probably the first thing I tell people. We're not trying to get rid of nerves. We're just trying to switch our relationship with nerves. And secondly, that takes practice. The same way that you have a routine before you compete, those, Caroline was talking about the big deep breaths that people are taking behind the blocks. That's part of people's routine, and we need to incorporate something about our nerves into routine. So, for example, I'm about to get up and swim. Oh, I'm getting nervous. That's a good thing. It's right on cue. I was supposed to be nervous, right? That's accepting the nerves. And the last thing that I'll say there is a visualization that commonly helps me and a lot of the athletes that I talk to is imagine just shifting to a different kind of nervous. So, for example, you might have heard this analogy before of the lion and the gazelle. Both are nervous. The gazelle is scared nervous because it's about to run for its life. However, the lion is an excited nervous. He's ready to pounce, ready to go, but he's getting nervous, right? So you want to switch. I have athletes often visualize, okay, I'm scared, nervous. I got to be the lion. I'm going to be the lion. I'm nervous, but I'm excited and I'm ready. I got to be the lion. So that is absolutely something that I suggest that you try if you feel like the nerves are overwhelming and not benefiting your performance.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. A really good one. I've used that one many times before too. And there's something about picturing an animal, or, there's something about that imagery, which you can get into too as another topic, but that really helps you relate to something, I think, as well, especially for younger athletes.
Robert, I loved your comment that you and your wife noticed that your daughter yawns. I know sometimes parents are like, why are you sleepy?
Yeah.
But it's actually a really good thing to be yawning before, because you're like waking up, you're getting oxygen. And
my dad used to be like, are you tired? I'm
yeah,
like, no. I'm really nervous.
Oh, that's great.
That's funny.
Should we go to the
Well,
next question or?
yeah, we have one more question and then we'll open it up to any last minute questions and then some exciting announcements for other stuff.
Yeah, cool. So this question here that I'll read, it says, my athlete has recently been asked to take on a different role on her team. She agreed to try it out. How do I support her through the changes and recognize that, sorry, it's a little bit hard to read. How do I support her through the changes and recognize something about nerves about the change? Or Caroline, do you understand the question a
Yeah,
little
just
better?
recognize what nerves are there through change. Like, so
Okay.
what nerves the athlete has about the change.
What type of role do you think? I'm just trying to understand the question a little bit better. Like what kind of change in
I
role?
think and I think that that's something that is very vague in general. So like if an athlete has a different role, maybe they're team captain, maybe they're helping with something else, maybe they're just doing it doesn't I think it's more or less if someone's taking a different role on the team, that likely means they're getting like a bump up somehow, right? So if there's nerves there, it's like, oh man, I'm team captain, or now I'm a senior, or like, oh, now I have to lead the team. I remember when I was a senior, all of a sudden I felt like I had all this responsibility on my team, especially in college. It's like you have this new responsibility, and that made me nervous because I felt like I had to almost become more of like a leader. You have more responsibility, you have more on your shoulders, you have to lead, you have to listen, you have to be there to communicate with the younger athletes, you have to be a little bit more of like that mother or fatherly figure. And I think that can cause some nerves when you have a different role that you're asked for. So but yeah, and Reb,
so how do you support her through the changes? I think I understand now, and recognize what are nerves and what is her saying that I don't like this role. So I think the parent is trying to figure out, is she nervous about this and that's why it seems like she's not liking it, or does she actually not like this and she's just doing it because she has to do it? So how do we support our kids when they're going through these kind of changes and we're not really sure what they're experiencing?
Yeah, and also I think it's, again, goes back to communication and talking to her or him about what is happening. What are you excited about? What makes you nervous about it? Do you feel that it's something you like? And if you don't, is it something that you can maybe like? It's just a matter of like getting used to it. Because I think a lot of times, and I know, Reb, you may have had a similar experience with this, is when I became a senior, whether it was in high school or in college, you have this duty then. As a senior, you're like a senior and you're a leader and you're a captain and you're getting up there, whatever it may be. And I think that at first I didn't like it because I felt like I had something to prove, or like I felt like all eyes were on me all of a sudden. And it was like, it's exciting because you kind of like being like head honcho and you're pretty, you're up there and you get to lead the younger athletes, and maybe coaches giving you more responsibility to gather the team's goals, to put on team functions or pep rally kind of events or whatever. I know I had to do stuff like that, like random things. And you're just like, I don't know how to do it. But I think that fear sets in that you don't know how to do something. And that's what maybe was confusing. Like, she doesn't like this. But maybe I did, I just didn't give myself a chance yet. And so I think that's another thing, is really communicating. If you don't like it, is it based out of fear? Is it because you're worried that you're not going to be good at it, at that role? And likely 9 times out of 10, that is the case. And then if maybe it's just not fitting with them, then maybe you have that discussion too. If it's not really a good fit, like what would they fit better with? So yeah, team roles it's for sure a thing. And I think that team roles also go a little bit deeper than just the title. It's kind of like, what do you contribute to the team, and talking and having that discussion. Like, what's your contribution?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So how about, does anybody, there'll be a lag again, but do you guys have any other questions? In general, like these first 2 lives, we're going to keep very open, broad questions before we start honing in, but does anybody, I see Kristen's on here, I see Jack Roach, hi guys. Does anybody have any specific questions regarding how you can best support your athlete, or if you are a coach tuning in, your athletes as well, even if they're not your personal children? How is that? Even though they feel like your children, I would imagine.
Yeah, right.
But we'll give you guys a few minutes to answer those. I know we do get some questions individually on our Facebook group, the parent Facebook group, and a lot of them are really, really valuable, and they all are along these same exact lines. So I try and keep the questions like that, but you're always welcome to put questions down, and we will contact you individually as well if you don't want them discussed like on the live feed.
Yeah.
But well, ooh, Jack, can you train mental toughness? You can.
Yep.
And it's ever evolving. Reb, you want to chime in on that one?
Yeah, I think that is absolutely the biggest underutilized thing in sports in general is training mentality. And mental toughness is absolutely important to be really tough, but even just optimizing our mentality, whether it's for performance or for general happiness, enjoyment of the process. I became pretty obsessed with the mental components of sports originally, but then just in general in life. And, my interest in it came after I finished my swimming career, but I also recognized that mental toughness did make my career what it was. It wasn't necessarily physical toughness, although, I trained really hard, but I think it was the mental aspects that made me able to do what I was able to do. And so in getting more interested in the mental aspects of sport, I really have come to realize how powerful it is, and oddly how easy it is to train mindset. It's only hard because you have to do it all the time. But it's just like training anything else. Every sport that every person here who's connected to athletics know that you go to practice, you do drills, you get better little by little, day by day, and the same goes for the mental aspects. And so, however, those exercises usually are not all that challenging. It's just about doing them regularly and actually stepping up and saying that I want to change this. I notice that I get nervous, to bring back a previous conversation. I notice that I get nervous. How can I change that? How can I take ownership of this? How can I make changes happen? And most people don't do that. They just accept, okay, I'm a nervous person. How do I, do okay considering that I'm nervous, right? Instead of just taking ownership and saying, all right, I'm going to change this, I'm going to train this, I'm going to improve my mentality. So yes, absolutely trainable, and something that we utilize in our everyday lives, even though we're not training anymore for competition. So yeah.
Such good points, really good points. And I think as far as training mental toughness, something to consider thinking about too for most athletes is it's ever changing, and it will always change and evolve and grow. And I think that I know myself personally, sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I should like have that figured out. Like I did the work. I like thought about it, and I was like mentally thinking about it. It's like, well, yes, but it will change every year, and it's something that, like Reb said, consistent practice. It's a practice just like you train your body. And if without that dedication and that commitment to that practice, it's really difficult to continue with that consistency in your sport physically. So I think they definitely align. And something else too that comes to my mind is a lot of times when you train for mental skills in sport, you're almost training yourself. It's this like catch 22. You're almost training yourself to turn your brain off. You're like thinking about and training yourself how to not think so much. And so it's this entire thing where it's like you do all the work so that when you do get to a performance, it becomes flow and autopilot. Like, you know what you're doing because you're able to turn it off. So the work is put in, and then you do it so often that when you do get to the prime time performance that you want, you know how to switch it into a gear because you've put in the work. So the actual performance piece isn't the piece that you should be thinking a ton in. So that's something that it just is a testament to the training, is something that you should really work on in conjunction with the physical training, the physical aspect.
Absolutely.
Good question. All right. So I think we will start to wrap this up. And I know that you guys had awesome questions. This will stay up. These past 2 ones have been really great to just put these types of questions out there into the parent universe of parent athlete land. We miss you too, Jack. But just know that also that parent group that we ask those questions on is linked on this page where this live event is. So it's also linked on it. And next month, we're going to start with nutrition. So we are going to have a special guest, Anita Null Richardson. She's going to be coming on. She's our Rise Athletes referral nutrition expert nutritionist. And so a dietitian, I suppose. She's going to be joining us. So she will be answering all questions about nutrition, and we are going to provide lots of good stuff and focusing on 1 or 2 topics that we will be in touch with you guys about on our main page and on the parent page, parent Facebook group. So stay tuned for that. And then from there on out, we're going to have more specific topics per live session. So if you continue to stay tuned, we'll poll you guys, see what you want next, and it'll be exciting. So we've really enjoyed getting to start throwing some of these questions out there. So it's been a lot of fun. At least I know Reb has. Hi,
Yeah,
Jenny.
yeah, it has been a lot of fun to just like chat.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, so hey, Caroline, I was scrolling through on, I don't know why it didn't pop up here on my phone, but I was looking at the comments on the computer, and we missed a question from Robert asking about sibling rivalries. Should we touch on that real quick before we finish up here?
Good question.
So he asked about any suggestions for managing the fun dynamic. He has 2 daughters, 13 and 14 years old. That is tough.
Close ages.
Yes. So having swam with my older sister, who was a year and a half older than me, luckily we didn't swim the same events, but there was a good bit of rivalry. I know, being the younger sibling, I just wanted to be like my big sis. I wanted to keep up with her, and I wanted to swim in her group, and she wanted everything but that. She wanted little group, and I'm not gonna lie, it was a little bit tough. I'm grateful that we swam different events, but I know that it can be really hard because it's an automatic comparison. You figure you're from the same family, you kind of have the same genetics, and so you should be able to compete with your younger or older sibling. So that can be really tough. I'd say I'm not sure that we did the best job of it. We didn't really address it. We just kind of focused on what we were each individually good at. And so I would say that my answer comes kind of from your question, was keep it a fun dynamic. Keep it fun, kind of trying to support each individual one of your daughters as they do succeed, and teach them to support each other. And I would say, even if it's my sibling's victory, I'm as proud of her as I would be of myself. So trying to focus on that, so that it's not like she did well, that means I'm not good enough, but rather she did well, that's awesome, she's like part of me because we're related and siblings. So those are just some thoughts that came to mind. I know, Caroline, with your brothers, or I know your youngest was pretty far younger, so you probably didn't have too much rivalry there, but if you and Clark had anything like that?
We definitely did. I had a younger brother that was about a year and a half younger, so same age difference as what we're talking here with all of us. just super close in age, polar opposites in training and in mentality around sport. And that was great, but it was also, it took a while to support one another's way of doing things. And that was definitely difficult for a while, but once we started to support one another, it was easy. And there was a dynamic for a while too before, so boys mature a bit later than girls in swimming specifically. My brother could kick my butt and everything else, like every other sport. But for a while, like girls are a little better than boys since I was older. And then when he passed me, I remember being crushed. I was like, no. But you know it's going to happen. So I think that's a boy-girl dynamic too. And I've heard that with some of my athletes, actually, with younger brothers surpassing the sister, things like that. And that can cause a rift at first, but I think it's truly understanding what that person is good at. And so again, communication, like, well, so-and-so is really good at this and you're really good at this. That doesn't mean you're not good at each other's things, but just focus on how you can support one another's strength. And so with boys and girls, it was different because once we got past that level, it's like we're not competing against each other anymore. So it was support. But I think that once we really learned how each other operated as athletes, and he was like a logical thinker, a very, diligent with his timeline of how he trained and his times and his splits, and he knew everything. And I had no idea, like not a clue, any of that. And so he helped me with that. And then I helped him just lighten up and have fun and think of it as fun, something that he's good at and fun with versus like something that he had to do. And so I think we were able to benefit each other in that way once we knew each other's strengths. And our parents helped us with that. He's good at this, you're good at this, and that's okay. You help each other, kind of thing. So I think just magnifying those strengths was helpful. Definitely. But good question. That's a good one.
Yeah. That can be pretty
hard
tough.
Raising multiple athletes.
Yeah, in the same sport.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All right.
You
well,
learn. Sorry,
go ahead.
Caroline. I was just going to say that you do learn a lot from each other. So I learned so much from my sister. So even though it wasn't always pretty, the sibling rivalry, it certainly is a good teacher.
It really is. And with friends too, friends.
Yeah.
That can be a topic that
Friendship rivalries
can chat on. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was awesome. We'll see you guys next month. Exactly a month from now. And the event reminder will be up. But next month, nutrition with Anita. It will be awesome. So we will be asking for your questions and giving you specific topics that we'll be focusing on regarding nutrition and performance and sports and life and everything like that. So geared towards your athletes. So it won't be like too much nutrition for you parents, but you'll learn a lot about your athletes. So
yeah, you never know. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining, and we'll see you next month. And in the meantime, check us out on Instagram at Rise Athletes. We've been having a lot of our mentors take over on our stories, and it's been really, really fun. And of course, here on Facebook, check out that parent Facebook page. It's linked on this page as well. And we really, really enjoy communicating with you here, and we're excited to be building this community. So we'll see you around.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.